Drew, from your past growing up athletic and active, getting involved with baseball at an early age, which soon became your life, leading you into the world of healthy living and food, which brought you to your business today, which makes me have to ask the question, do you think that you are creative since you've been at an early age from sports and now with your businesses? I know you got your hands in a couple other pots, but do you think you're creative?
Um, to be completely honest, off the top of my head, I would say like first instinct would be no, but I think that that's something that I've been working on my whole life is being hypercritical and a little too hard on myself. So I would say no, but then if I really break it down and kind of remove myself from really even my childhood and then growing up and then through baseball and life after baseball,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it is kind of clear that depending on what your definition of creative is, I would have to say yes. But I think that for me, a lot of that quote unquote creativity comes from, as we talked about in the past, creating a ripple effect and creating more so in order to be able to provide. Because if we do back up to, like you mentioned, my past in baseball and my career there, my entire life, all I ever wanted to do was follow my dad's footsteps, right? Literally my entire life. That was all I knew. The year that I was born, 1986, to age myself, was my dad's rookie season. And from literally as long as I can remember and from as long as I was able to, I was waking up with him, going to the ballpark, um, basically going through the motions as if I was part of the team, and I was a
Mm-hmm.
little kid. Uh, then I was, bat boying, polishing the cleats. My point being is I was raised around the game. That was all I knew, all I ever wanted. And I realized how rare this was, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we were able to travel as kids. We bounced back and forth between South Florida and San Francisco, California, which is, in my opinion, two of the most beautiful places in the country, right? So, I mean, from there, from the get-go, it was just like, wow, this is super rare. I am super fortunate. I feel super grateful for what my dad has been able to provide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stress on the provide. So that was really what drove me to do everything I could in my physical power to follow his footsteps and make a career of my own. Because, I mean, if you had asked me at that point, I would have thought I would have kids, at 21 years old and
Mm-hmm.
the whole nine. But then life happens, right? So basically trying to create a career of my own so that I could provide for my future family was kind of my perspective and outlook. However, at the time, I had no idea that that was what was going on, right?
Right.
At the time, it was, this is what I know, this is what I want to do because my dad's my hero, right? Like
Just playing the game,
playing the
baseball.
game, right?
Just that's from the early age. That's what you saw. Like I want to be involved into the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But now, because I'm big into like reflecting and sitting with my thoughts and removing myself from, the present moment and looking at the big picture and trying to make sense of things and connect the dots, right? So um, that's definitely one of the things that more recently I've kind of figured out and put together is that this whole time, I was trying to create this career that is very conditional, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing unconditional about it. It's all what have you done for me lately, baseball in general, but especially professionally. And I learned that the hard way after I was able to kind of put everything together. And my senior year, I was meant to go to University of Florida play baseball there, but I got drafted right early, like not exactly where I wanted. I slipped to the second round, but I was super obviously skinny. I've been undersized my whole life, right? Nobody knew who I was as a player until the summer going into my senior year because my dad was super old school with everything, but
Right.
especially when it came to baseball. So he
What
didn't
position did you play?
shortstop,
Okay.
and he played second base, so middle infield. And he didn't allow me to go to the showcases, right? So I had to again kind of create this opportunity on my own because his whole deal was if you have the ability, the scouts will come and find you, right?
Right.
So I kind of had a bit of more work cut out for me in a sense because I wasn't able to go, and that's kind of how it was, especially back then, or I guess it's the same way now, but you pay to go to these showcases, and
Mm-hmm.
there's all these scouts, right? College scouts, MLB scouts. They're watching all these kids. So sorry on a little tangent, but just to kind of paint the picture as far as in my mind, like I sacrificed a lot of things, right? Like my whole childhood,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, revolved around baseball and living out that dream. So um, suddenly in my senior year of high school here at Jupiter locally, um, I was literally talking to every single MLB team. They were doing like background checks and stuff, basically trying to figure out what type of person I am,
Yeah.
my makeup, right? It's called in baseball and stuff. And that's another thing that I'd like to kind of touch on future in this conversation.
Hmm.
But just how like everything that you do in life, every decision you make, the habits that you kind of follow or create lead up to whatever is next, right? So
Hmm.
like none of this happens overnight. So again, just years and years of striving for something, gaining that, right? So I was drafted second round, skipped college, started a career of my own. Everything was just going as planned. Another big thing that I've been into since a young age, before it was popular, has
Yeah.
been the visualization and manifestation, things like that. So like almost to an obsessive amount, like I would see myself doing it, right? Because it's
Hmm.
all I wanted, all I would think about. So, anyways,
What are some of the stuff that you would visually see? Would you visually see yourself in the game? Would you see yourself at practice? Would you see yourself speaking with certain people a certain way?
all of it, truthfully, because since I did have that like knowledge or know-how of what things were like behind the scenes, right? Like
Hmm.
I would see myself pre-game, like getting ready, in my locker with my headphones on, like, and just that feeling, and I would feel it. It's more than just kind of seeing it, but like feeling it, right? And then painting that picture of like a legit at bat with the fans and
Right.
facing whoever, because that's one of the things I miss the most is competing one v one. Like I've
That's what I was
lost.
gonna say. You don't strike me as a competitive person,
Yeah,
but you strike me as somebody, and I've known you for a while, that you demand the best out of yourself,
yeah.
always.
Yeah, to a fault, especially when I am my own hardest critic, especially back then, before I had realized a lot of things. But as far as the competitiveness, man, and that was one of the things about after life after baseball was
Hmm.
having to kind of go back to the drawing board and almost re-identify, um, again, to a fault, because I allowed myself to just become so, like, uh, obsessed, I guess, to a certain extent about this goal, right? And like
Right.
making it, especially after I got hurt.
You never thought of like plan B. It was just
Not at the
plan
time, no,
A,
man,
and
not
now,
for years, no. Even rehab, and I rehabbed for like 5 or 6 years without ever even thinking. The trainers are even like, dude, why the fuck are you still doing this, man? Like, but that was it at the time. I
yeah,
still just wanted to make it because that's all I knew, and I
yeah.
wanted to provide, right? Like,
What
um,
was your injury?
low back. I had so in 2006, I signed in '05. 2006, I everything was going great.
Right.
Made the All-Star team. Was performing. Were like on the path, the trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Not to get too into it, I was like 18 or 19 at the time. They were projecting me to be in the big leagues by the time I was 21. Obviously, you can't look too far into that, but when you're a kid, it's like, okay, they just gave me X amount of dollars. They're
Hmm.
betting on me. I need to make it, right? Like more than just for myself making it, but now all of a sudden, these people believe in me. They're betting on me, so like I got to live up to this hype, right?
Right.
So in 2006, everything was going good, and then my back started bothering me, and I was playing through the pain for like 3 months, and then like one day I just couldn't get out of bed, and that's when finally they're like, "All right, we gotta have you go see the team doctor." Obviously, some things aren't right, and I had two stress fractures, a bulging disc, and spondylolisthesis, which is basically like scoliosis but front to back. So my spine isn't like crooked, but my discs front to back slip off one another in my low spine. So it messes, obviously, all your nerves and whatnot are running through there. So
Right.
when they're misplaced, everything gets pinched. It was causing nerve damage on my leg. That's why my leg was shot. My leg would either be shaken or I couldn't even like put weight on it.
Was there a particular incident where it happened, or was it just over time, just from playing the
No,
game?
it was over time and it was not listening to my body. And that's true, like, kind of leads into the next chapter of my life is like realizing how important that health is, right? And like if you do listen to your body, it'll tell you things, right? And if you're mindful of it and you take care of your body
Mm-hmm.
and realize that it should be and is like your top priority, because without it, what the fuck are we?
Yeah, no, exactly.
No matter
That
what it is
mic
that
is
you're trying to do.
slipping. Let me help you out real quick.
I was trying to slide down with it, but pretty soon I'm gonna slip off the chair.
There we go. I'm like,
But yeah, basically the importance of health, and not only that, but over the years, and this is more of what I'm passionate about now, is like, so you have the obvious health that everyone thinks about, your physical health, right? Because we can feel that, but the mental health and the emotional health for me is like, what's important, right?
right.
And that's kind of become my passion at this point, to be honest with you. Uh, we were talking briefly about like the business stuff and
Mm-hmm.
how nobody gets in business or
For,
not to make money, right?
yeah.
But for me, I think that, we touched about that why and stuff, and that truly has been my passion, to be able to kind of create, again, this platform, to not just have healthy items conveniently and affordably for the community
Mm-hmm.
to help with their health, but also a platform to try to stress without being too kooky or in your face with it or kind of force it upon people, but to check into the mental side and reprioritize kind of what's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also to kind of develop these young individuals that are sacrificing their time and energy to allow the shop to
Mm-hmm.
be sustainable and work in there and have the right energy, but I think that by kind of leading by example, which is tough now that I'm removed a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but still having a presence and kind of leading by example and try to pass on to some of these young individuals what, I had to, in a sense, learn the hard way, I think is, for me, again, brings that inner peace, that fulfillment, a whole lot more so than, that P&L, that bottom line, those
Right.
profits. Obviously, we need those profits to keep the doors open,
Yeah.
and it's all part of it. But
Money's the ability to make choices and have options.
right, and to continue to create, which is
Exactly.
this is all about, right?
Yeah.
And again, I know that this has been super long answer to your question, and I apologize.
No, I love it, but I do want to kind of go back where you're on this trajectory to playing pro ball and then have a life-altering injury kind of take place. And from there, where were you? Because obviously your life has changed quite a bit from playing baseball. Um, did you have to make a choice right then and there to find if you wanted to continue in the game, however, to be able to work for yourself, or take a step back and be involved in the game some other way, or where did your life go from there?
Yeah, so basically how that kind of ended was after the initial injury,
Mm-hmm.
I opted not to have the surgery because they could only fuse my spine together. So like 4 screws through my back, piece of plastic in my spine, go through the stomach, like a huge
Oh
operation,
wow.
not very mobile, so it didn't make sense. And I was 19 at the time. So
Yeah.
I wore like the hard body cast for a few months and then spent years rehabbing, trying to get healthy. A lot of ups and downs. I honestly, when I was still with the Minnesota Twins, one off season was able to truthfully, like physically and mentally, get to a place where I've never been before. And I came back in spring training, and everyone was like back on it, right? Like when I got hurt, everyone kicked me to the curb, right? And I was still a kid. So I was able to kind of come back, and everyone was from the front office, the owners of the Twins, the general manager of the Twins, everyone's like back on it, right? Trying to be supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it was no longer trying to perform for the Twins, right? Like this is realizing now, like this is about me. This is about my future. These guys don't give a fuck about me, right? Like, so,
So you notice that kind of like almost like a whole day to night sort of thing where it's like it's I'm disposable almost.
100%, 100%. And they truly, it's like, and not to blast the Twins, even though they, didn't treat me necessarily so great. And I saw it not just with myself, but it's just the way that they operated.
Right.
Hopefully they've evolved, but
Sorry about this mic stand.
Oh, no,
This
you're good.
podcast is so unprofessional.
No, no,
It's
you're good. I love it. Natural, organic.
natural and organic. Got these plants right here.
That's it. But I just realized definitely like this as soon as I was hurt, it's all what have you done for me lately, right? So I wasn't able to perform. So they truly, it was like, okay, next. So bouncing back to that, I got myself to a place where I was performing again. I got to play in a few big league games. I performed in those big league games. I was back on track, and then later that season,
You
right?
performed with this injury still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How'd you feel you did? Do you remember some of those games?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I did all right. I held my own. I felt like shit, and that's the thing that like coming out after that injury. Yeah, it's one thing physically. My body wasn't able to do what it used to naturally, but then more so mentally,
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't trust my body any longer. So I wasn't able to just kind of react and respond. It was more so like trying to do things. So I had that working against me as well, but I was still fucking doing it, man. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
like still get like hit a couple doubles and shit, like still performing, still doing all right, holding my own against literally the best in the world. And at the time, though, it wasn't good enough for me, right? Like, again, I was always too hard on myself, and it wasn't until it was kind of too late that I realized, like, I don't know, I guess I should have been like a little more proud, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Are you able to look back now and kind of be proud of yourself? Older Drew talking to younger Drew?
a little bit, but there's still like, and I apologize about getting emotional. I just don't talk about this stuff.
Dude, no, it's
Um,
it's
but
real.
yeah, but one of the biggest things that I've like been dealing with is
I apologize for this mic stand. Good lord.
no,
Let me
we're
do this
making
one
it
more
happen.
time. We're making it happen.
Um,
Get it that way. Do this. Do that. Pull that back. Do that. Come this way. That. Good.
tight. All
So
right.
legit.
Where were we?
Are you able to look back at yourself being
Right.
an adult now and kind of older Drew talking to younger Drew? And there's certain moments where you can look back and be like, I was too hard on myself there. I should have given myself a little more slack. From you even telling me that you're still able to play high intense games and do well with an injury, that's huge.
Yeah. Yes and no. So one of the biggest things that not many people know, just the people literally closest to me, is in that time, like, so before I got my back checked when I was 19 in 2006, I had this thing in my mind that once I found out I was going to the doctors, I wanted something to be on there because I didn't want to look like I was kind of being a baby in a sense, like
Right.
again for the organization.
Yeah.
At that time, that's all I cared about, unfortunately. So like I even still battle with like kind of like hate myself, man. Truthfully, like because I was a kid and I had everything I worked for. It's like you're gonna sit here and wish for it to kind of come to an end in a sense, like have a reason. So just kind of accepting that has been a huge battle, as you could see. But the reality of it is like I was young, I was still a kid. Even if what I have now, I think that I myself and we as individuals have to learn how to be more sensitive with ourselves, more understanding,
Empathetic.
empathetic. I have so much empathy for others, man, but I can't like. For me, I'm still working on like an acceptance. I have so much acceptance and understanding for others, but for whatever reason, for me, it's always been a battle, right? And again, sorry to get emotional, but
Well, this is why I kind of want to, when had the idea to even start this podcast of connecting and creating with people, you were the first person I really reached out to. Like, I want you to be episode 1 or 2 because your reputation and who you are as a person since the day I've met you to a 7-year friendship to now, I don't use this expression for anybody. You literally would take your shirt off to give it to somebody else. You're the most giving person, and you always put other people first. You gave me my first opportunity as a creative to start this venture and idea of the value of the creative idea and representing content with a business. And you're the only person that gave me a go at that. And I see that quality and skill set you have with other people, and you've created a business out of that and a culture, not only once but twice and even three times.
Yeah.
You've done it.
Yeah. Well,
But for seeing your struggle, like your struggle in your past, and being able to take all that and implement it now and put so much value into people's lives who think they don't have any value.
so that is like leading into perfectly where I was getting at, and I'm glad you said that so I can kind of regroup. But that's kind of where a lot of the emotion comes from, is because I think the easiest way that I can break it down now and put it into words, which has been tough forever, till probably a couple months ago, is like, so back to the baseball career and wanting to create again, a career of my own so that I could provide like my dad did for my family, my friends, whoever I am close to. None of that's changed, right, throughout the business life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that now, though, I realize that, like I said, the baseball world and athletics, that was all super
Official?
more like conditional,
Okay.
right? So like the Twins loved me when I was healthy and performing. The Twins hated everything about me as soon as I was hurt. My tattoos, my hair, the fact that I wasn't always clean shaven, they picked me apart. The fact that I was quiet and introverted, they picked me apart.
And this was you even before joining the team. You've had the tattoos.
Yeah, well, at that time it was my elbows up because I didn't want to represent them in a poor light, right?
And man, times have changed so much now with tattoos and everything.
With everything.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy. So, not to get too into things, but this is a quick tangent, or not tangent, but
Side note, yeah.
yeah, of things changing. And now sitting back, and it's just like I laugh because all these things. So now when you watch the big leagues, I'll back up and tell you the things specifically they hated about me.
Mm-hmm.
When they first signed me, I had a big leg kick, right? Because I'm a scrawny guy. I'm a little guy. I was undersized, but I like to hit and I like to compete. So if that pitcher's gearing up, kicking his leg up, coming at me, I used to do the same thing because I wanted to get as much into it and it helped with my rhythm, everything. So I signed with them, and instantly they wanted me to no leg kick, right? Just like everyone else. They wanted me to hit like a robot, right? Which didn't work, and what I truly believe led to my back injury, because then it put that much more strain on my low spine. Anyways, off topic. So the leg kick, the tattoos, the long hair, the beards, your own personality, all these things that used to not fly. If you watch the big leagues now, 90% of the motherfuckers out there are all of that.
So true.
So it's just like I look back now and I literally laugh because there's nothing else I can do.
Yeah, exactly.
But as far as them judging, it was just like everything that they were paying me for and they invested in me, nothing had changed. You spoke about like shirt off my back type thing. That all started when I was a kid, but especially through sports, right? Like competitiveness, I lost that to a certain extent because I needed to. But that was what like separated me, right? That's what like made me was the fact that I was a grinder, I was a competitor, but I was a teammate that would drop everything. I got knocked out, I got blindsided, I've taken punches from motherfuckers because I was just like quick to react, right? Like not really thinking what's in it for me.
Right.
And again, I'm getting emotional because that was all questioned just because I was quiet. So just because I'm an introvert and I don't like small talk. Like I like conversations like this, like real shit.
Yeah.
I don't like small talk. I don't do good with small talk. So what would happen is when I was on rehab assignments, these high ups, the general managers and stuff would come through, kind of check on things, and they would see short stints of my quote unquote character and my quietness, and they took it as me not giving a fuck, not caring about anybody. But if they would have taken 2 seconds to ask any one of the teammates that actually knew, they'll tell you the exact opposite, right? So like, again, my only point of bringing that up is that it does go overlooked, and it has gone overlooked my whole life. I have been misjudged my whole life, man. But it's a matter of knowing and staying true to my character, even with these past failed business ventures, I guess you can call it in a sense, from the outside looking in. If it wasn't for like that experience with baseball, I would have folded, right? You know, like after the first time, but then again after the second time, and then definitely after the third time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you circle back to the why, then that's literally the only thing I can kind of attribute kind of persevering and just kind of pushing through it all. Because I know...
Did your why change a little bit as you kind of progressed more and more into baseball, and with your injury kind of being a little bit more...
No, so I think that was kind of what was hard for me to tie the two together, but more recently I've realized that...
Because your why being, I want to follow the steps of my father and being able to provide through this career.
Right. So when I was younger, it was more stress on following my father's footsteps and providing through baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But then once that was literally rugged and pulled from underneath my feet, and it was kind of on to what's next,
Mm-hmm.
it was a matter of kind of back to the drawing board, regrouping, years of putting things together and creating, right, without even really realizing and be able to connect the dots. But now, whereas I mentioned early on, I was trying to create a career so I could provide for my family. Now, anything that I create or spend the time to try to make happen and bring to life, bring to fruition, materialize, all of it truly does have this ripple effect of providing this, that, and the other for so many other people. And it is unconditionally, as long as I can connect to, even if it is like one person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I have the opportunity to speak at Jupiter High School, which I never thought that I would, because I hate public speaking.
Oh, that's so cool. In the past or recent? Or...
No, I'm going to be doing it. We're still waiting on the specific date, but it's going to be more directed to like the student athletes.
That's awesome.
Thanks, man. I'm nervous, to say the least. Hopefully I can keep it together a bit better for that.
A bunch of kids.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
No.
just
But the athletic director, Kim, who I went to school with, who is a great individual,
Okay.
who also has dealt with adversity through her career and now is in a great situation. And again, just after speaking with her, the way that it came about, it is just kind of a matter of being a good individual in the present moment, taking care of, you know, the task at hand, doing the right thing, and then the universe, you know, more often than not, supporting you and kind of connecting the dots, and suddenly you find yourself in a position that you never thought possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of Kim. So now she's in this amazing situation, athletic director of Jupiter High School, sports are thriving, you know, so she's loving it. That's her passion.
Yeah.
So that is a perfect opportunity for her, right? So we were able to reconnect, and she wanted me to speak specifically to the student athletes about kind of nutrition, right? But for me, the second I heard that, I'm into it, obviously, but I'd rather talk about overall health, and health like we talked about physically, but more so mentally and
Yeah.
emotionally, because if I had anyone back then, like even touch on that, you know, could have made such a big difference. So even if I'm able to connect with one person and save themselves, you know, even if it's just a bit of darkness or depression, you know, because I definitely have been there for years, right? Like I was in a dark place for like 6 years of my life. And it was a constant battle. And I have learned so much throughout that process through doing the work, right? Like I've grown up around people, I don't want to call anyone out, but people from the outside looking in that look like they've made it. But when it comes to like evolving and growing and doing the inner work to find that happiness, like this individual is miserable, has always been miserable, and casts that kind of darkness and depression in a sense on others, right? Instead of just like figuring out where it's rooted, right? Like, how can you resolve this and get through this so that you vibrate in a higher frequency, and then that becomes contagious, right? Because energy is everything. So over the years, I've kind of like made that my passion in a sense, to try to do that inner work, to try to connect the dots, to try to figure out what I can do to be at peace,
Yeah.
sustainably,
Yeah.
and to have that, unconditional happiness and love for like myself, because I have it for everybody else. But to kind of answer your question, and I think that what all this creating has always been about, even backing up to the sports, is like, how can I say this? So when I was playing, even as a kid, if I performed well, that brought value, right? In my opinion, because that's what I was raised around. That was what I was kind of raised to believe. Baseball is a game of failure. So if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're still one of the best to do it, right? So even at that sense, like constantly fail and learn how to fail. That was super important. But for me, as far as creating and the value, that was how I personally, unfortunately, created value and was able to see value in myself. But obviously that's super unconditional, right? Or conditional, sorry.
Right.
Because if I'm not performing, if I'm going through a slump, then suddenly I'm not happy with myself. That's not right. Suddenly, higher ups, whoever it may be, whether it's professionally, like we touched about, they're not happy with me. So now, back to the why and back to creating for the proper reasons, I am able to provide value for others. I'm able to see a little bit value myself. But I'm able, like I said, to provide. I've always been into, whether it's quote unquote like experience, quote unquote knowledge, quote unquote know-how. And when I'm talking about these things, I'm not talking about like business and making money, but just like getting through the day, right? And like being happy. And
We live in an interesting area in Florida too, where we
overlooked.
have, we have some of the most wealthiest people, and also working class,
Yeah,
and the happiness radar of real
exactly.
self fulfillment is
Nothing inside.
exactly everything is either just bells and whistles of distractions, or what's the materialistic thing to almost play the game to fool the other people to see how I'm doing, quote unquote, better than that person.
100%.
It's a weird game. I have some friends that have recently even said too, like, I just feel like we're just playing this show me game
Yeah.
of back and forth, and I'm kind of tired of it. I want something even a little bit more simple. But relating to you, you've got so much self awareness. Did you always kind of have that though with the game? I feel like you've always had it, but I feel like it's grown and it's always going to keep growing. But was there kind of a pivotal moment from going from the game to where you are now in your business?
Yeah, I mean, business and life in general, I would say the kind of turning point, I've always been self-aware, right, to a certain extent. But obviously not enough, as I wasn't able to listen to my body, right? So like that was one thing that I overlooked and learned the hard way. But now I think truthfully what had happened was, in that time, during that depression, before things got even darker, I broke my jaw and I had my jaw wired shut for like 8 weeks.
How did that happen?
So I took a punch We could leave it at that.
Got it.
Took a punch. And it was a physical punch, but also like a metaphorical punch, right? If that makes sense. I don't even know if I'm using the right word, but basically like
hit you so hard it also kind of
everything.
Yeah.
Flipped my world upside down, forced me to do the inner work. Couldn't talk. So as an introvert, as someone who doesn't talk much to begin with, didn't affect me too much. But now when I was forced to, I had to talk through my teeth, right? Like, so you can't really hear me. And even still, like, I got in the habit of not really opening up my mouth when I speak because I got used to that. But when you have to talk like that, you kind of choose not to talk, right? Like, when you're depressed and you can't eat and you can't sneeze and you can't cough and you can't lick your lips, you kind of decide to not be around other people. So that's when like the solitude, quote unquote, started and forced me to like go inside, right? Go inward, I should say. And like the true meditation and the true sitting with my thoughts and reprioritizing like what I was living for, you know? And if this was sustainable and if I wanted to continue, you know? But I think that it was like through that, like I said, that it needed to happen because since then, even like, again, I get misunderstood and misjudged often, even by like in the relationships I'm in, right? So even now, like at my lowest of lows, I've realized that I am like worthy of love, right? Like I do have a purpose. I am able to help others, right? Like, because for me, that's what it's always been about. But it hasn't been easy by any means. And it's almost like you get through one thing, right? And I know that I'm preaching to the choir, like with everybody, not just with you, because obviously everyone has their shit, right? Like, so I probably look like a big old baby sitting here crying, you know? And I'm all right with that because that's another thing I've accepted and realized. And I wish that people were okay with, especially men, with like being emotional, speaking about things, letting things out. I was raised in the opposite environment and it's not healthy, you know? So I think as a whole, I think we could do a better job at that. So I'm not too concerned about crime. The only reason I bring that up is I do know that everyone deals with their shit, and I do know that it could be so much worse than what I'm sitting here talking about. But
it shows me that you care not only about your own story, but others of what you've kind of gone through, and you don't want someone else to go through that. That's why I'm so stoked to hear that you're talking to Jupiter High.
Yeah.
Those kids, because you're exactly right. If you can touch one person, what can that do for that one person, and how that ripple effect, as we said before, can affect so many people. And even kind of going 5-6 years ago with you giving me my first chance, you easily could have been like, you have no experience.
Yeah.
You're just a kid with an idea, and no thanks.
Yeah.
But you saw something in me I didn't even see myself at times. And then when I was kind of going through my own stuff, when I felt every relationship and door close, and that's the thing about when you go through shit, it's you really kind of see who's there for you, who's really there for you. Because if you're only around celebrating the good times with me, but when things get hard and everyone goes away, where you at? Where you at?
Yeah.
And I can easily say you've been the one person to actually sit down and listen to me when I had my shit going through, and nobody else really would. So, and you've been that way since the day I've met you to all the way to now. So that's why there is that ripple effect. And kind of going back to when you're talking about how do you even define creativity? And I was even thinking about that too. I'm like, how do I define creativity? Maybe just it's the act of creating something from nothing, but just listening to you relate to creativity, you are creating your own opportunity for yourself. And life's not easy.
Certainly
I'm
not.
I'm kicking myself because it's taken me too long to figure this out.
Yeah.
But you being able to create opportunity for yourself that will impact others as well, not just only creating for yourself.
Right.
Being able to create for yourself to platform others. If platform's even the right word to use, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a little incubator in a sense, but in a general form. And it's really not anything that's forced as far as like trying to impact these individuals that work with me, right?
yeah.
Now, if we speak specifically with like Soul Rebel,
But before that, I just want to know.
yeah.
So from baseball to coming back home, and then from being home, did you know and spending that time with yourself in true solitude?
Mhm.
Is that when, in being a visionary, visualizing yourself on the baseball field for as long as you have, and in the game, how did you take that mental capacity and shift it to something else?
Yeah, so from there, once I realized that baseball wasn't going to be it, and I did have to go back to the drawing board. As I mentioned, I didn't have the college background to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was literally like starting from scratch, right? Didn't even necessarily like passion. Like that was baseball, right? So
Yeah.
once that's done, it was like, okay, well, what the fuck now? And that was one of the things that I kind of juggle is, you know, well, let me answer your question first. Otherwise, I can already feel I'm
No,
about
dude.
to go on a tangent.
I hear. I
Um,
like it because you lead to the point.
So, let me stick with this. I apologize because I could feel it going.
Hey, I got the mic stand working now too, so
Yeah.
we're on the right track.
Beautiful. So basically, when I came back and baseball was over, and it was time to start a plan B. It was really at that time I wanted to come back home, back to Jupiter. I knew that I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to do something on my own. I had set some money aside to do just that. And I knew, again, that I wanted to impact the community and those close to me in a positive way. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. So from there, I was just starting to try like fill some voids, right? Like on paper, start to think some things out. One of the things that kind of made sense and fit the area was, looking back, goddamn, am I glad I didn't do it. But, excuse me, those stationary waves. And if we back, this is a long time. This is like probably 2012 when I was thinking about this. So they weren't really anywhere yet. There was one in San Diego, I believe. And anyways, I figured it would be perfect to bring to the area because from there it wouldn't just be, you couldn't just have the wave, but you could have the wave that would help fill a void of something for people to quote unquote surf when things are flat the majority of the year here, or at least get that sensation. Come to find out, it's not necessarily anywhere near the same, which, like I said, is for the best. But then also I thought it could be cool to tie in the whole Jupiter lifestyle, and whether it was like add on a little bar or whatever, just kind of build a culture, a community around it, right? A place that people would feel safe, have fun, gather, naturally, organically. And something that was different. I've always, even when I was young, I've hated being like everybody else. Like I've always, even when I was young, like I said, tried to go out of my way to do things differently, even if it was minor. But so it was something different. So I did a little due diligence, put everything on paper, figured it out, and never really pulled the trigger. It was going to be expensive, didn't necessarily believe in it, wasn't going to impact people positively too much, so didn't go for it. Then the next thing was, you would like this because of your industry and your passion, but right here at the amphitheater by the beach, which is super, what's the word, underutilized. I wanted to start putting on shows because at that time I was bigger into the music scene, going to live shows, I had a good amount, a grip of connections within the industry of different people that we could create a solid lineup, at least to begin with, tie in a ton of local vendors, right? Like shed light on the right individuals. But again, just kind of fill a void because growing up in the area, it's a no-brainer that people are looking for shit like that to do and fun different things, you know? So same thing, crunch the numbers, put everything together. It was honestly a lot more practical than I thought it would be. Like definitely doable. Who knows how much those numbers have changed since, but like it's something I still, and even with the name Rocksteady and even with the name Soul Rebel, I didn't want to do something that was so specific to juice because I didn't want to handcuff us, right? Because I want to have the ability to potentially in the future venture out, you know?
Yeah.
So that being one of the things is I think it would be very cool to put something on at that venue under Rocksteady or now Soul Rebel.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, this was my thought process. So obviously didn't pull the trigger on that either. From there, worked a couple odd jobs to buy myself some time.
Mm-hmm.
And then what ended up happening with my first business venture is, if we back up even further, I think it was either 2013 or 2014, I created this thing called Three Natives. I created this thing called Three Natives that I don't talk about. I don't take credit for because it's not in my personality. But I created this thing called Three Natives.
It's the first time I've ever even heard you say the words.
Yeah.
Besides me being in the back juicing
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's been another thing that has been a process. It's all good now. Like I said, I don't like bringing attention to it, you know, but for the point of the conversation, from there, that's what was next. And the way that
And just around that time too, in Jupiter, just in this general area, we didn't have
nothing.
We had nothing. I think that's when I always kind of talked about like Florida is like like the end wave of like trends starts in California
100%.
and it kind of like Florida gets like the kind of the last trickle of it in a very Florida way. I think around the time like frozen yogurt was very, very popular and very kind of
everywhere, oversaturated.
Everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it was that, and then basically the only other options were like tropical smoothie and Jamba Juice, right? So obviously there's nothing quote unquote real about that. There's no true intention behind that. There's no community behind that. So basically an opportunity presented itself. Two of my quote unquote friends were familiar with this thing called an acai bowl, and they wanted to do something with that. So they had it in mind to do one acai bowl and bring it to the area. From there, just like with the wave, it, for me, presented an opportunity to go kind of above and beyond and create something larger, make it fit the community, make it fit the area. To have my family working there, my friends working there, like how much more communal does it get? There was a staff.
Me and Logan.
Yeah, you and Logan, Tyler, my other brother.
Yeah.
There was a point where the entire staff grew up playing JTA baseball. Like it was a fucking unit. It wasn't just a business to make money. From myself, I can claim. But at that point, basically, if I back up, it was an opportunity to bring acai bowls to the area. And then from there, it made sense. We have all the ingredients. Let's make a few different acai bowl options. Let's get creative with it. From there, like I said, we have the ingredients. Let's make smoothies out of the proper ingredients, which is a void to be filled here. Then on top of that, no one knew what cold pressed juices were back then. So why not? Let's do that too.
Not only that, I mean, the accessibility to the machines weren't even really around too. It was just very quick and just like that.
Exactly. So much has changed since then.
Oh my God, I know.
It's insane. Especially the competitors and how oversaturated it's gotten. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, man, it was honestly an opportunity to create a dream. And that dream came true. Like top to bottom. So from there, made sense to get creative and make the menu names fit the area.
Mm-hmm.
The brand name, Three Natives. I came up with the name Three Natives because it fit the area, made sense. Then from there, like I said, there was a separation. That wasn't easy. I, again, can't get too into it.
Mm-hmm.
I was faced with an ultimatum, though, and I decided to take my team with me. So that didn't change when Rocksteady started, right? Like, and again,
So you pulled the Dr. Dre of the Juice World.
what's that?
He left the record company and started his own.
Yes. And I brought the squad with me.
Yeah.
Because that's, again, what it was all about. At the time, it was still my brother Tyler working with me.
Mm-hmm.
It was still, it was just like 2 days ago. Forget who it was. It was actually, it was just yesterday. I was in a meeting at the shop at Soul Rebel, and someone was asking me what the build out looked like at Rocksteady originally. So I was scrolling through my photos, and I pulled up the photo of the team that started it. And it is so crazy, dude. Like, just to think about. I'll pull it together. Just to think, like, how surreal life is at times. And how, if you're not truly present in the moment, like, you'll miss some good shit. That you'll never get back, right? Like, so I'm looking at his photo, and it's like my brother, his daughter, 2 girls that grew up in the area that I've known forever. Danny Patrick grew up playing JTA in Jupiter High School baseball. Zach Rossetti, I'm the best man in his wedding. Grew up in my neighborhood. Blake Boyd. Bernie, who moved to the area. There were a couple other. Justin Copeland. He's like a brother to me. And I look back and be like, damn, man. Fucking did it. You know, like, truly created something. Truly stuck to, like, what I feel is meaningful. Didn't sell out. And it showed, because those motherfuckers, like, I don't know how else to say it, but they rode with me, right? Like, they dropped everything when I left. Then they waited. And they came they came back.
You're good.
You know? And, like, just that there, like, apparently I need to do a better job of reflecting, because I completely overlooked that until I saw that photo yesterday.
That hit you pretty hard, too?
Fuck, man. Yeah, man. Truly. Like, you don't realize sometimes what you got going until it's too late, you know? You don't truly appreciate it until you look back and reflect later. Or maybe it's just me, but you just don't truly give yourself any fucking credit until it's too late. So to look at that and look at that picture, it just, like, spoke volumes, you know?
Yeah.
For not what I was able to quote unquote create, but more so the character of every one of those individuals. But also, I can confidently say, and with this, like, I know we haven't touched on it, but with this whole, like, friend blend project,
Mm-hmm.
in the Web3 space, I've been able to reach out to others who I'd never had reach to previously. I've been able to speak on Twitter Spaces, you know. And
So what is Friend Blend?
yeah, let me get into that in just a sec, because I want to really, like, touch on this, because
Okay.
this for me is everything now.
Yeah.
Every situation I've been in, every opportunity I've quote unquote created, I've had no business being in on paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, looking at that photo for me was a perfect example of literally, not to sound too kooky, not to sound too cliche, corny, whatever. Every individual, every body is capable of literally whatever the fuck it is they want to create. Like, baseball, my career was cut short. But even getting to that point, I had no business being there, right? Like, getting drafted in the second round at 18 years old, I had no business doing that, right? Like, starting a business with no education. I struggled in high school, right? Like, I'm not book smart. But these are things that I wanted to happen. These are things that I saw before they were reality. These are things that I know for a fact were manifested over time, not overnight, right? So my point being is, with baseball, with Three Natives, with Rocksteady, with Soul Rebel, with Friendblend, and with whatever happens in the future, I truly have no business being there. Like, let's be honest. I don't speak very well. I have a lot of things working against me, but I've been able to make it happen. And if I can make it happen, anyone can make this shit happen. And truthfully, that's like become my life mission, is to try to put that out there. And again, even if I'm able to connect with a handful of people, set some light bulbs off. Again, we'll touch on Friendblend, but that was the whole point and purpose behind that project. And it's been, in that sense, nothing but a quote unquote success. And this is going to be a little dark, but something I've sat with recently. I can die tomorrow and be all right with it. Like, things can come to an end tomorrow, and I could be at peace. Because the things that I've set out to do, they may not have lasted as long as I wanted, but I've made that shit happen, and I know that I've affected a few people along the way. And for me, again, that's what this shit's about. So I really can't stress enough that, like, it's become my life mission just to wake motherfuckers up to realize that, like, we are wired. We are taught to have these limited beliefs of what we're capable of, and we can be our own worst enemy, and we can be our hardest critic, and we can keep ourselves from so much success, quote unquote, whatever that may look like to you. But we as individuals can literally accomplish whatever the fuck it is that we want to. And I think that there's so much power in that. And I just want for anyone to realize, because I want them to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. I want them to find what brings them true fulfillment and inner peace. Because without that, what the fuck are we, right? So that's that.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. I mean, not only relating to my business, but my passion and everything that fuels me with music. You were the one person that really gave me that opportunity too. I played outside the shop. I had no business playing outside the shop. I had no business really playing or singing, because my whole entire life, I played guitar since I was 10 years old, and I was too chicken shit to sing in front of other people. I just wanted music in my life to end regard, and I wanted to keep going with it. Mm-hmm. And it was so hard to put all my eggs with other people in their basket, with their basket. And also, when I would try to do certain things a certain way, I would just have kickback saying, no, you can't, because you are this, and this is how you are known to society. This is how you are known to other people. Mm-hmm. And I just took and I believed it. And I believed it for a while, even though I would sit with my own thoughts and myself and just be miserable and unhappy and unfulfilled too. And even the support and the love I have from my family and what my little friend group that I really truly do have, and then my fucking perfect wife telling me certain things, and for me to just have the action for myself too. But I mean, kind of, that's why I resonated with what you said, like, how you think you had no business being into the places that you are, but honestly you do, because everything's so oversaturated now and everything's distracted with bells and whistles and bullshit. But the one thing that cuts through the most is authenticity. And you're the most authentic person and the most forward with yourself, and you truly want the best for other people. And it shows, because I'm the prime example for that. I mean, I've had this past weekend, one of my shows with my band, I had people come up to me and said hi, follow you. And I was embarrassed because I felt like I should have known them. Mm-hmm. But it was just kind of telling me that I have whatever I'm doing, it's kind of growing a certain way.
You got some reach.
A little bit, a little bit, not too much, but I acted in a movie that's on Paramount Plus.
You got some reach.
I
Got
have
some movie
no, I
star.
have no business being an actor, and I'm still not an actor, but I'll act like it.
Exactly.
It's an opportunity that came across to my lap.
Exactly.
It's Do I have any business doing that? No. I was a C student my whole life just as well too. Everything you're saying,
Right.
it's I feel
It's
man,
powerful. And that's
yeah.
the thing too, is like once you feel it and once you realize it, then it's contagious and you can't really stop it. You know, it's almost like what's next. You obviously don't want to like put the cart before the horse in a sense, but
Mhm.
it just really is crazy once you realize. And I think for me it was too late in a sense with the baseball thing and even with the first business venture. But then once you get to a point, you realize like, okay, you don't have to be a superhuman to make some shit happen. My whole life I've helped people, individuals on pedestal, right?
Mhm.
Until I started after baseball having to self-educate and do a little due diligence and figure out what makes these successful quote unquote motherfuckers so successful.
So that was
What's different?
that was the action that you put into it, because that's the thing you can vision, and that's what I was doing my whole life, just in my own head. I
Mhm.
felt like I lived in my own head for practically most of my whole life, and
Relatable.
just visualize, and literally just drive myself crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, even to the point where like I chose to stop drinking alcohol for a little bit,
Yeah.
just because of my own personal life choices I want to change. And no one was going to tell me that. No one, I just something I wanted to do for myself, and I immediately felt better.
Yeah.
So I just decided to keep riding that wave, and I'm 5 years this month, I think.
Congrats. That's
I don't,
incredible.
exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's incredible when you think about it in that large scope, because if I say today that like I quit and I have to look for the rest of my life, that's almost overwhelming
Yeah.
a little bit. But taking like the little actions, like today, no, I'm drinking what you're drinking, Pump House coffee, boy.
That's it.
Yeah,
Can't get away from it.
dude, cannot.
Pump
But
House Coffee.
there we go. But I mean, even talking about those guys for just a second, that's why I look at business as a product and a service.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the financial side, that's extremely important. That's more of the back end stuff too. And then
Mm-hmm.
also just creating that good work environment, but a product and a service. If you're able to do those two well, I believe that you will have a very successful business, and not only with you, but those guys too.
100%.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the same thing, is I feel like truthfully, like all of us at the same time kind of like created that foundation and kind of started to evolve and grow in unison in a sense. You know, like same thing with the photo. Like there's still this photo that I have of Christian specifically. Unfortunately, Alex, the other Pump
Mhm.
House brother and legend, is not in the photo, but it was in Rocksteady before the rebrand. I think it was like 2016, maybe even 2015, something like that. Anyways,
Mhm.
and we were standing by a cold brew machine. It was like the first day when we start serving Pump House, right? And just to see what those brothers have been able to create over the years, and the community and the cult almost that they've been able to create again with nothing but pure intention, nothing but great energy. They're not cutting corners. They're not trying to take advantage of people. They're not putting the cart before the horse and trying to open, 15 locations before they've even found out what's up with number one. Like they've been slowly building this monster, getting out there within the community at the green markets, connecting with these individuals. And again, when the intention is pure and when you are a good person and you go about your business the right ways, the universe will take care of you. So like you said, they've created a monster now. Like that Poratorium that they're
Oh,
about to open is
dude.
incredible.
I'm going there next week to do some photos for them, and
It's
I am
insane.
so excited.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
insane.
incredible.
It's so cool to see. It couldn't happen to two better individuals. Like that's the shit we need more of. That's the shit that we need to highlight. That's the shit that like they need to get their flowers, like
To me, those are influencers. To me.
100% without trying.
To you have influenced me so much to kind of be on my path and understand my why, and how to not only mentally and but physically put that into action as well. But those are the people that I mean that resonate with me.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for those kind words. I don't see it that way because I'm just
I know, and I know you won't. That's
whatever.
why I have to remind
But
you.
but them guys, yeah, man, it's inspirational. And truthfully, bit of a tangent. But we had her, Kelly Hagan, who's an artist, tattoo artist, way into surfing and whatnot, just super talented,
Okay.
rad individual. She works now, she does tattoos for Remy, who has created, again, something incredible. Both those individuals, both those women bet on themselves, right, to create this thing. Specifically Remy, I have to give credit to her because she started it before Kelly was a part of it. But it's just another example of people believing in something, seeing a void to be filled, having a passion for something, going for it, and before they know it, creating this lifestyle for themselves that they probably didn't think was possible, right? Like, so it's just incredible to see these type of things happen. And then I truly am super inspired by all of it, to see it go down, to see them not just survive but thrive. Like they've created their own community and cult following around it as well, specifically with women, and they may not even realize it, but they're empowering a ton of people.
And yeah, empowering
You know,
everybody.
like
Yeah.
exactly. So it is super super cool to see happen. Truly, like I love it. I truly love it, and I wish that people would shed more light on it because it's things like that that deserve more respect, deserve more attention, um, because they're doing shit different and they're doing it for the right reasons, right? Um, and again, I think that that's kind of what it's all about. Now Remy's got like a number of women in there working
It's
for her.
incredible.
It's fucking crazy. It's so cool. You know, like if that doesn't inspire you, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I always
Um,
question what inspires other people sometimes.
yeah,
And if it's inspiration or drive, or if those even go hand in hand sometimes, because you can be inspired, but then do nothing with it.
exactly. I think that you have to have a little blend of both, right? Like there's got to be a nice synergy. Those two can mesh, you know, because just like the visualization without the action, you know, it's nothing.
Hmm.
You have to take the action. I think a lot of people misunderstand that part. Like you can't just sit back and think and expect something to change, right? And I've been guilty of it as well. You have to take that action. So I think it's almost very similar to that, you know. Drive is something that I've always, it's kind of corny, but my dad, since we were kids, he always engraved in us the 3Ds, right? Drive, desire, determination. Um, I have it tattooed on me somewhere. But to be honest with you, that's been something that has got me through all this shit, right? If I didn't have the drive, if I didn't have the determination, you know, then I wouldn't make it with
What's
any of it.
what's the
I'd
third?
fold.
What's the third D? Desire.
Desire. Then I would fold, right? Like, it's too easy to fold.
Yeah.
It's too easy to give up. Uh, so, and then on top of that, to have inspiration, to find inspiration in literally everything, and not to call myself out, but one of the big things that has been helpful for me in spirituality, in self-acceptance, in even depression, has been the usage of psychedelics. I hope that this doesn't go against your podcast rules
Yeah.
and regulations,
Who knows? We'll find out.
but that was true. Like, just like rewired my mind in a sense.
Like microdosing.
Yeah, microdosing, heavy macro dosing,
Yeah.
all the above. But for whatever reason, over time now, like I'm able to find inspiration in everything.
Yeah.
And I think that we all obviously are able to, and you don't necessarily need to practice said usage. But they're truly, whether it's nature, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in adversity, whether it's in sacrifice, whether it's in creation, you know, like there is inspiration in everything. And it's crazy. Like this plant that's growing on my shoulder right now.
Yeah.
Like just to think that this thing is living, it's breathe, like how beautiful, naturally
I don't
different colors and
like
vibrancy, and it's just like
propagating this one. I, this died a while ago, and I found a little bit of a stem and I put it in some
bringing her
water,
back.
and it popped to this.
Exactly. It's just crazy. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
It's truly incredible, like so to just be able, and I think that it kind of touches back to like being in the present moment and finding like value even
And it's
in
hard
the
to be
little
it's hard
things.
to be in the present moment, especially in
100%.
today's age with I don't want to say, yeah, I mean not only how fast paced from digital media's growth
Right.
and stuff too. That's why I find music and just being creative and art in general really kind of forces you to be present. I mean, I've uh I've done it a handful of times. My brother's a little bit more consistent with it, but just like ice baths
Yeah.
and stuff. I mean, if anyone has a problem or a tough time trying to be present in the moment or even learn how to meditate, because some people are like, I just don't know how to meditate,
Hmm.
do an ice bath.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do an
You
ice
won't
bath.
think of anything else.
Yeah, start with a cold shower,
Yeah.
30 seconds to a minute, and then just gradually kind of go. That's helped me quite a bit,
Yeah.
being able to kind of remain present because there's so many things going on, even from being a Florida boy. I mean, from speaking today
Mm.
and kind of living halfway in New York too.
Yeah.
It's quite the change of pace.
Oh yeah, 100%. But that's the thing too, is that, and I think that this is an opportunity to kind of circle back to what you had mentioned earlier about acting in a movie
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily any business being there potentially from your perspective,
Yeah.
but the fact that you like pushed past that thought process, push past that potential discomfort if that was there, right? Stepping out of your comfort zone, I think has been massive for my evolution and growth, and this opportunity in New York City is just another example of that. It also is another example, truthfully, of manifestation coming to life. Like, I had been here for like the last 10 years or so working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Working, which I love. But I was ready for a change of pace. Like I said, I'm super introverted, super slow pace, which fits this area, but it's easy to kind of get caught up in that, right? So I needed something a little quicker pace. I needed something that would force me to again step out of my comfort zone, force me to pick things up, to throw myself into the masses in a sense, because
That's how you grow.
exactly, that's how you grow, that's how you evolve. It's become easy for me to retract through that process of solitude and again having my jaw wired shut and not wanting to be around people and learning to have to be okay with being alone, right? Which I
Yeah.
think a lot of people aren't okay with being alone. So when I had to do so, it was almost like I began to prefer it. And I would choose, especially after working all day and interacting with other people, I would choose to be alone, which is okay, but it's not always super healthy, right? Like it comes to a certain extent, you got to get out there. So, um, I don't know how else to say this. It's gonna sound kind of funny, but like, so I was looking for love, right? Like, I
Yeah.
wanted a relationship. I wanted somebody who I could truly connect with. I was looking for change of pace, relocate potentially. Um, and I was looking for more inspiration. So suddenly, here we go, the universe again presenting an opportunity for all the above, right? So I couldn't deny it. I couldn't turn it down. I knew I had to change a bunch of stuff here at the shop. Can't just up and leave everything. Um, that's my baby, right? Not only
Mm-hmm.
the shop, but then everyone who works there, who works with me, who keeps that thing alive. Like, those are my people. That's my family. Like, I have a responsibility to take care of every one of those individuals, right? So by no means did I just up and leave. Things have been restructured. Um, I have been blessed with some great individuals that have allowed me to do that. For the season, I'm going to be coming back and spending more time here. but that's my duty anyways, right?
Hmm.
Um, so even just the ability to do that at this age, like, again, to age myself, I'll be 36 in November. Um, but it's kind of surreal. Like, I've been up there and I've had a ton of free time. Obviously, I've been focusing and working on the shop remotely, but I also have had free time to focus on, Friend Blend,
Hmm.
um, which was an opportunity to throw some flowers towards the Pump House brothers and what they've created, put them in front of an audience of 12,000 plus, and then some within the Web3 space and the NFT community, Alien Friends specifically. Um,
So could you dumb it down for just someone who's just watching and still doesn't kind of Web3 and they're just kind of not know what's friend blend really is and the
yeah,
relation?
yeah, I can try. It's complex. I could try. So basically, Web3 right now is similar to how the internet was when it was first rolled out.
Hmm.
Um, Pros and cons to everything, obviously, right?
Yeah.
There's a learning curve to everything, obviously, right? There's getting through security issues, right? Just like with the internet. At first, people thought it was crazy to make payments with their credit card over the internet. No one trusted that. Look at it now,
Yeah.
right? Like, so my point being is, truthfully, it's only a matter of time before the Web3 space is kind of everywhere in a sense. And NFTs specifically have already become kind of everywhere and more mainstream and are being used as reward programs for, say, Starbucks, for instance, or they're utilizing them for ticket sales with professional sports, right? So there's a lot of usages. Eventually, they're talking about doing like college degrees and whatnot through NFTs,
Oh wow.
selling homes through NFTs. So it becomes a digital ownership, basically. Um, with Fremblend and tying Pump House, basically what is going on there is, the easiest way to explain this is Alien Friends is a collection, is a community within the Web3 space.
Hmm.
It was created November, December of 22, 21, sorry. So it's creeping up on a year. And it's had a ton of success within the Web3 space. And some of these collections, you're able to utilize the IP, the intellectual property of said token NFT that you own. So how Fremblend came about was, I was sitting in these Twitter spaces. Again, I'm super introverted, so I kind of sat back at first and I would just listen, try to soak up as much knowledge as I can because I had the free time. The universe presented me with this free time that otherwise I never would have had. So it was an opportunity. So I went for it, and it made a lot of sense that with this IP, you can create a business in a sense that they, the Alien Friends, the founders, the team, have already done the legwork as far as creating that community and following. So to get, however, say 12,000 individuals,
Hmm.
to support you in real life can take years, can take thousands and thousands of dollars, can take a ton of energy, right? Like to create something that people support and buy into and believe in, right? So with this, and this is the beautiful thing about, or one of the many beautiful things about this technology, is that they've done the legwork. They've provided you this platform that you can now grow, develop, create underneath their umbrella. And in turn, it just adds more value to the individual, but also the entire community. Because the more people are utilizing their IP and creating brands and getting them out there, it becomes more brand awareness and eyes on the Alien Friends as a whole.
Hmm.
It reaches now another demographic or community that otherwise potentially would have never seen Web3, NFTs, or the Alien Friends in general, so it just puts attention on them while also putting attention on Pump House Coffee because they're the ones who I'm working with to source, roast, and bag the beans.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it gives now all those eyes on the Pump House brand, and I'm able to speak on these Twitter spaces, speak about Pump House. In order for people to order Fremblend originally, they had to go on Pump House's website, right? So it just like drives traffic to Pump House that otherwise they wouldn't see. So it becomes a situation where everybody wins. With the packaging, with the artwork, I had a local buddy, Ryan McGrath, who lived out west for a while. That's what he does, right? So I had him do the artwork, and we threw, So Rebel, the logo on one of the tank tops, and Pump House logo on the bucket, right? So just like, again, brand awareness. But basically the point behind that was it was an opportunity to create a product that became a collaboration between 4 established brands, right? Rather than your typical collab between 2 companies or brands. So that was a little bit different. And then the potential to continue to evolve, like it's really just getting going.
That's so forward thinking.
Oh, dude, but the thing is it's been so crazy how just like my first business venture, how it has been a quote-unquote success from the get-go, from not the aspect of sales, which has been successful, and it's now offered on the Alien Friends marketplace. So people are able to spend friend coin that you own by just holding said NFT, build up basically a holding of friend coin that you collect daily, depending on how many you hold, and then you're then able to buy friend blend with friend coin. So they've almost created their own ecosystem that now almost entices individuals to buy friend blend with their friend coin, so they don't have to spend money out of pocket. So they're getting the product without spending their hard-earned money. Pump House and I are getting a bit of money and reorders through the Alien Friends team to keep up with the inventory, right? So it becomes completely sustainable, and again, a situation where everybody wins. And there's not many opportunities like this in life and in business. So
especially this space, it seems very community driven.
exactly. And that's the thing, is the more that I sat back and listened, like I literally had to at least try it.
Yeah.
Like I had to
You
go
put
for
action
it.
into it.
Yeah, so I reached out to the Pump House brothers. They've been obviously head down working on the Portatorium and doing that whole build out and stuff. So they haven't had time to dive into the Web3 space. So I had to kind of explain some stuff to them. They were on board. Reached out to Ryan McGrath. He was a little bit familiar, but same thing. He was on board. And now the goal or the plan is we have temporary packaging now. We're going to eventually print directly on the bag so it looks more professional. We're also going to have different roasts that different artists within the community
that's sick.
do the artwork for. So it's a kind of a ever-evolving collab. And then eventually kind of dive deeper into e-commerce, and rather than focusing specifically on the Alien Friends marketplace and Pump House website, really getting out there to some of these different distributors that have like the coffee packages with like 3 different bags that you can select from 3 different companies that they mail to your door, right? So again, just continuing to have more and more reach for the brand, not for Friendblend, but the whole point was, again, more focus and attention on Pump House, more focus and attention on Alien Friends, more focus and attention on Ryan McGrath and his ability, and in that sense, it's been incredible how every single person has taken to this, man. Like this has been super inspirational. I did this to try to inspire other people, which wasn't like the intention, like I'm going to do this because I want to inspire people, right?
Yeah.
But it was connecting the dots, realizing, okay, this is a no-brainer. I need to do this to create value for the entire community and collection, but I also want to lead by example and hopefully set some light bulbs off in individuals' heads for them to do the same, right? Not necessarily coffee, but utilize their IP in other ways. It is insane how people have taken to this. I don't know how else to put it. Like from the get-go, I've spoke on Twitter Spaces. Like I was one of the first ones to move and utilize the intellectual property in the Web3 space. And people are aware of that. People are speaking about that. Again, I'm a fucking idiot. I have no business doing this stuff. But here we are again, and I'm speaking, and I have this platform, quote unquote, to try to pass this, again, message along that whether it's Web3, whether it's IRL in real life, we are capable of so much. Like, it's funny to sit and say over and over and over again, but it's just like literally living proof that like we really are. Like, and you don't know how people are going to take to things, right? Like with any business venture, with any music experience, whether it's a live event or a new song you're putting out, you never know how people are going to respond and take to it, right? Like, especially me, I always have a lot of doubt, you know, like,
Yeah.
but just to see how with almost all these things that I have like taken action and put out there, the positive response and feedback, whether it was like, even if it's a failure, it's still a success in my eyes because you learn from it, you move forward, you realize that you don't have to be affected negatively by a failure, you know, all these things. So it's like, what do you got to lose? You know, nothing. What do you got to gain? Everything. In the sense of sales with Friend Blend Coffee, we've sold a lot of coffee, a lot more coffee already than I thought. This thing happened quick. It was like an idea in July. And we've held an event. We're in the marketplace. We're working on a few other things right now. Like, this thing's happening and it's happening quickly. And obviously it hasn't happened just by myself. It literally is multiple teams making this happen. But it's just insane, truly, like what can happen when you just go for something and you feel it in your gut and you have those doubts, but you just kind of set those aside and push through it and say, what the fuck do I have to lose? You know,
Yeah.
I'd rather fail than have that what if in the back of my mind, right? And this example with Friendblend is just like, I can't even put it to words. And same thing, like after this and after the amount of people that reach out to me and have reached out to me, picking my brain, trying to like find inspiration, trying to ask me for ideas and stuff, like that's my dream job. Like the day-to-day stuff is fun, it's cool,
Yeah.
but I like creating stuff and I like helping other people create stuff for themselves. Like that's it for me. So for this to fall into place, like you can ask my girlfriend, like I was explaining to her not too long ago that like that would be it for me if I could ever have the opportunity to like help brands develop, start, go from an idea to something, you know, and then just kind of let them do their thing and let them run it. And this is exactly what's kind of happening. So again, like not to sound too dark, but I could die tomorrow and be good. I am at peace. Like it's been a struggle, man, but I am at peace. And this shit wouldn't happen without work. Believe me, and I think a lot of people overlook that.
But also your character. I mean, there's product and a service, but everything with brand awareness goes along with the character too.
Yeah.
And your reputation has held the test of time. Obviously, life's been throwing you curveballs, no pun intended there.
Yeah.
But it really has. There's with that being said, if someone has watched this A to Z, the whole thing, what is one thing that you want someone to take away from this conversation that we
One
just had?
thing. So the biggest thing, truly, and it sounds simple, there's not much like inspiration and whatnot behind it when it comes to the creativity side of things. But I think person to person, like if I'm able to reach anyone, I think that as an individual, I hope everyone's able to realize that like just that, like I said, at your lowest of lows, whether you've always felt it from others, but you are capable and deserving of love and acceptance. And for parents, I hope that they raise their kids to believe just that. That's it.
Where can they find you on the internet? Are you on Twitter and Instagram? And
I am on Twitter, freshly on Twitter, simply because of the Web3 space. Instagram is where I have most of my stuff.
okay,
My Instagram is Thompson_6, I believe. Twitter is at DrewThough6. Kurt Cobain, similar to Kurt Cobain.
yeah,
Big fan of Nirvana. Big fan of him. Quirkies is a big community in the NFT space that I'm also a part of.
oh, sick.
So that's where that name comes from. But yeah, really it's just that. Instagram. I'm not too big into the social stuff. I don't post too often. But I do love finding inspiration even on Instagram. You know, there's
Yeah.
pros and cons to everything. So I spent some time on there. But um, as far as in the shop, I used to be there a lot more. So I would say just come in damn near any day and you'll see me there. But that's changed. This season, I'm going to be around a whole lot more. But honestly, back to Instagram, as far as finding me, I may not be so active on there, but if there's anyone that wants or needs any bit of assistance, anything, please DM me. You know, like super approachable. I don't talk much, but I want to help as many people as I can. I obviously don't want to force that upon people, but the opportunity is there, you know, just one message away. I would love to sit down with you again and do this again in the future.
Dude, yeah.
I know that this was a long one. I went on some tangents and I got a little emotional. I should have known that was going to happen. But it's a combination of things. One, like I said, trying to place more focus and acceptance on speaking and getting emotions out and being okay with that. I think that, again, we as a species, we as humankind can do a better job as that, but especially men, I think, you know, typically are a little closed off to that. But also just the amount of passion like that I have about all this and that I always have. And just like how much energy I have put into everything in my life and how I have stayed true to everything in my life. I'm far from perfect. I know that. Believe me. Every day I'm working on myself. Every day I'm trying to work on my flaws, on my downsides. It's an ever evolving process, right? Like that's never going to stop. But I just know how hard it is to get ahead, even when you have quote unquote advantages, you know, like at a young age, I was given some money. I was given an opportunity. My dreams came true. So I had a leg up. But I also know how much of a fucking battle it's been, man. So to speak about some of these things, I get emotional. But more than anything, I just want people to like feel it and relate to it, because I know that I'm not alone. And I know that the more people are aware of that, the stronger they can be and the easier it will be to get through whatever it is that they're going through. So I appreciate you creating this platform. I appreciate everything truly that you've done in our friendship over the years. You are one of the more genuine dudes, you know, that I've come across, especially in this area. It is rare. I am here for you. Always will be in your corner. But yeah, man, thank you for holding this space. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for trying to keep up with the disconnect between the thoughts in my head and the words that come out of my mouth. But yeah, I truly appreciate you. I appreciate what you stand for. And I can't wait to see what it is that you can continue to create for not only yourself, but the community.
And I could testify and say that everything you've said is just the most authentic and 100% accurate when I really needed somebody to talk to. And it's hard, especially now you make excuses in your head reaching out to people where it's like, well, that person's too busy. I don't want to bother them. Or that person's got this going on and I'm just a little peon here. But during the busiest days in the shop too, where you're like, hey, I do want to talk to you, but just come to the shop and we'll take a minute and sit outside for a second. And that minute turned into whatever, how long those hours would turn into. But you never fluffed anything when I really needed someone to listen to. I don't have an older brother. I'm a middle child, and I've always kind of felt just very alone sometimes. And that's the thing, being introverted, and people define me as extroverted. But the moment where an extroverted person doesn't really want to speak in the room, all the attention goes there, and there's obviously an issue and there's something wrong.
Right.
And you don't really want to kind of share so much with a stranger,
Right.
because the more you spread it, the more you spread it, sort of thing. So there's certain value with your words and power and how you use them and share them. And I think every word that you've said just now, or even just through our years of friendship too, and even when people talk about you in the community, to me and my relationship with you, it's nothing but the best. So honestly, Thank you. Don't thank me, dude. I want to thank you, dude. You're wearing a sick wolf shirt too. You fucking came prepared today.
That's
Free
it.
spirit.
That's it. My favorite thrift find, probably my favorite shirt I've ever owned. So, had to rock it.
Well, dude, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Dude, that was